thank you all so much for all your kind words, and thank you all so much for attending. It's going to be a little tough up here. When I look back over the 2 years, of course, it's really the others that made this possible. I think I talked about this at one point. My management philosophy has always been, pick the very best people you can. Just pick the very best people you can and just get out of their way and let them do their jobs. And the easy part that I had with Silicon Flatirons, of course, that Phil had built here a group of people that were already here, so I didn't have to do the first part. I didn't have to find the people. And of course with Brad and the entrepreneurship, and Paul and the privacy and intellectual property, and of course Anna, just so incredible. All I really had to do was just really get out of their way. And it's all due to their hard work and the hard work we've had from just an incredible group of fellows. It's already mentioned Ray Gifford, Dick Green, Ryan Tremont, who's been so great and so grateful for our Hatfield Scholars program as well. That's been great. Our advisors, gee whiz, I don't know what I've done without the various advisory groups that we've had. And of course, the student volunteers, even out there this evening, the student volunteers have been tremendously. And then I was scared. The economy was tough a couple of years ago, and the sponsors, none of this would be possible without the sponsors. And they have continued to support Silicon Flatiron. And so I'm just so grateful, and it was really all of them that made it possible. Of course, I want to welcome Phil back. Boy, do I want to welcome Phil back. But I think when you left, I think if I remember right, Phil, you said something about it sort of being bittersweet. That sort of the bad part was leaving Boulder, that the good part, the sweet part, was going to be able to go to D.C. and engage in government service. And it's, of course, when I look at the situation now with Phil coming back, obviously I'm thrilled, relieved, all those sort of words. But it's also bittersweet too. It's sweet that he is returning to me for those reasons. But also, of course, we're losing him to government. And so I have real concerns about that. There was an article in the trade press yesterday talking about the sort of hole that would be in the White House now in terms of advocacy and so forth, and work in this area because of Phil's departure. And I'd like to tell just a little story, and I'll try to wrap up quickly. I had the privilege of being in D.C. on what turned out to be Phil's official last day on the job. And this was an event that Phil was responsible for, and it dealt with public safety issues. And I don't want to do any name dropping, but some of the people who attended included the vice president, and four cabinet officers were at the session. And I couldn't believe just the outpouring of thanks for Phil for his service. And then in the conversations afterwards, it was just unanimous about how sad they were about losing Phil, but then they all said about how lucky we are getting him back to Boulder. So I'm like to say I will welcome him so much for so many reasons. And I wanted to use that as an opportunity for you students to reiterate the importance of government service. It's so easy to sit here in Boulder and criticize what's going on in Washington. It's really kind of easy to do. But you really don't appreciate it fully, the toughness of the jobs and so forth, when you go back and do it. And I think those of us who have benefited so much from living in this free country and so forth, giving some time back to government services is really important. Of course, Phil, I admired him so much for having done so. I will wrap up by saying just a little bit about Dean Gatches. I was so sorry, of course, about his passing away this last Tuesday. And of course, he was very supportive of the Silicon Flatirons Center. But when you think about it, here was this engineer, sort of a has-been engineer in some ways, anyway, coming into the law school and running a program in the law school. And, you know, that could have created tensions maybe or something, I don't know. But anything I can say is that Dean Gatches is just as he was described. He was just absolutely wonderful to me, supporting the program. And Anna and I because you know Anna really knows everything. I always generally would take Anna with me when I went to meet with the dean. But invariably the conversation would get off of what we were there to talk about, you know, the budgets and those sort of things. And we would talk about, you know, spectrum as being another natural resource and natural resource law and so forth. And of course the part that he was particularly kind to me about was kind of, now I have to admit I'm not sure I completely got all of it right. But he sort of tried to explain to me how law schools work and things like that. And that was still a little mysterious to me. But the point is that I'm making is that Dean Gatches was just absolutely wonderful to me, and we will sorely miss him. And I think with that, I will sit down and make it official that the baton is now passed.
Have been told to tell you all that in this first act as returning head of Silicon Flatirons, there are envelopes under your chairs. You can fill out your checks either to Silicon Flatirons or to the University of Colorado Law School. If you do need a fundraising lunch, be willing to sacrifice also half of your meals. On behalf of Silicon Flatirons, of Dale and Phil and Anna and Brad, Paul, and the whole gang, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This really is a special community, and you all make it special.